Let's bring in our political director, Washington Bureau Chief Rick Klein. Rick, the polls all bunched up as we head into the final weekend. Walk through some of the different paths that each candidate has.
Yeah, good morning, George. The 538 battleground polls tell the story right now. The polling averages everywhere, all 7 battlegrounds. No one has a lead of more than 2.5 points, all within any poll's margin of error. So to start with, if you just assume that the polls are accurate, which of course is a huge assumption, this is where things would land at the end of election night. Donald Trump, over 270 electoral votes. He would clinch the presidency for a second time. But no map is a foregone conclusion. So let's play with a scenario here. Let's say that the polls are understating Vice President Harris, or that she has a big ground operation, ekes out just enough votes to win. Here's a scenario that's probably her likeliest path to victory. She picks up 1 electoral vote in Nebraska, and then Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the Rust Belt, the Blue Wall holds right there. If there's no other surprises, that's 270 electoral votes. But of course, the polls could be off in the other direction, or Trump is able to hold. This is Trump's likeliest path to victory. If he holds the 2 battlegrounds out west in Nevada and Arizona, and the 2 southern battlegrounds, Georgia and North Carolina, he is then just 1 state away from clinching the presidency. Pennsylvania is the biggest prize on the map. That's the best opportunity for him. The single most important battleground state on the map, probably for either candidate, George.
Rick, we have massive early vote, but does it tell us anything?
Well, look, this is what we know so far. 65 million Americans have voted already. That is something. It's 40% of the total turnout from 2020, with still 4 days to go. We don't know who people voted for quite yet, but the Harris campaign's been touting what they call good news for them in the early voting. They're looking at the gender gap. So far, women making up about 55% of the people who have already voted. That gap was actually a little bit larger by a single point 4 years ago, although in 2016, it was a little bit more even. So they like those numbers. The other thing we can tell is the likely partisanship of people who have already voted. So far across the battleground states, a 2-point edge for Democrats. Of course, they like that. But 4 years ago, it was a 9-point edge. A lot of things have changed in terms of voting in the 4 years, so it's hard to read too much into that. But the bottom line, there is no data that definitively says who will win and who will lose this race. The votes that will decide it almost certainly have not yet been cast, George.
It is just so hard to read. Okay, Rick Klein, thanks very much.